That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner. Welcome, everyone, to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. I am your gracious host, Brian McFadden. Today is Friday, September 2nd, 2022, and we are live, as always, but I don't think I emphasized that enough. We are live on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, my personal Facebook for some weird reason, but we have an extra special show. We got some news, some house cleaning, some items to discuss before we jump in, so it's going to be slightly different than a normal show. But I got my man, Rich Jodice, the pro football demon, live on the show, and it's not going to be the last time coming up. Rich, man, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Brian. We have a little color coordination going on today. This is the most visually pleasing show I think we've done so far. So we didn't plan this either.
Let's be honest, completely by accident. This was not something that we set out to do, although we probably should have taken credit and said, oh, yeah, we put hours into... No, we're here for a very special episode. It is a Q&A. Especially when Rich comes on, we know that he's, you guys love him on TikTok. A lot of times you guys come over and regular viewers of the show are over asking questions that we don't get a chance to get to. So we decided let's do an actual just Q&A show where we're just going to take the questions from you guys. We're still going to do the 30-minute timer. We are going to alternate just like normal. So I'll let Rich decide if he wants to take the first question, if I want to take the first question, but I'll go back and forth. We'll have the halftime. We'll do all the normal format. But instead of Rich and I preparing questions, we're going to let you guys ask the questions. So go ahead and put them in the chat. We see a lot of people already in there. Looking forward to getting your questions. Before we get started, before we start that timer, a couple announcements, Rich. Rich, this will not be the last time you're on the show anytime soon. Nope. In fact, we are going to have you on 3 days a week, regular when the season starts. How are you feeling? Are you okay? You're committed? You're ready for the season to start?
I'm so committed. We're going to be doing on before the Monday night games and the Thursday night games. We're going to be taking them right up to kickoff, about 7:30 to about 8 o'clock, right around there. And then I'm going to be on Fridays and maybe filling in from time to time on other days. If
I'm just going to try to get them 5 days a week. I got them 3 now. I just that's baby steps. But yeah, so as Rich mentioned, we're going to change things up slightly in a good way. So we are going to do a Monday and Thursday night preview edition throughout the entire season of 30 Minutes of Football. Pro Football Demon, me from Legit Football, Brian, just this guy without some cool nickname. We're going to be doing it at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Still going to be 30 minutes. We're still going to be asking each other questions, but it's going to be leading right up to the Monday night and Thursday night games. You guys are welcome to bring questions on those. And then on Fridays, still our normal time, right now, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, but we'll do game picks. Well, we'll take turns, alternate, asking each other questions, previewing the week's games ahead. So I think we got some of those kind of housekeeping, some of those notes out of the way. People are here for their 30 minutes. People are here for their questions. Rich, are you ready to get this party started?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Great. So 30 Minutes of Football live Q&A edition with Legit Football starts now. So once again, Rich, you win the coin toss as the guest. Since you're going to be a regular, we might switch that up going forward. But for right now, you're still the guest. Would you like to receive, or would you like me to receive the first question from the crowd?
I'll switch it up this time, and I will receive the first question.
Okay, go in on offense. I love it. So we're going to put the questions right up here on the screen so you can see it. Ask Rich what he thinks about Hall of Famer Mark Sanchez. What a great start. A little bit of fun trolling to get you started.
Yeah,
on you.
That is, I'm sorry, I got to jump right in here. When I hear Mark Sanchez's name, I get a little worked up, so I didn't mean to cut you off there.
You're sweating a little bit.
I have a special place of hatred for Mark Sanchez in my heart. Not for the man. He seems like a fine guy. But the Jets teams that he quarterbacked, I had such high hopes for those teams. They were phenomenal. Defensively, we had weapons on offense. That offensive line was ridiculous. They had a fantastic running game, and it was one of those situations where the quarterback just did not work. And I'm going to say we, and I hate when people do that, but I'm not part of the Jets, but we We just, for lack of a better phrase, poo-pooed the bed those seasons. Um, yeah, I have no love lost for Mark Sanchez. I was excited when we moved up, made the trade to grab him. You're always excited when you're watching the draft and you haven't had a quarterback. And anybody coming out of USC, we've been through this a couple times with the Jets, the most pro-ready quarterback in this draft, and that's what they were saying about Mark Sanchez at the time. I was excited about it, but yeah, I do not have fond memories of him as our quarterback. And curse you to Cato Luna for bringing that to me today.
What a great way to start. I love the energy. We're going right to the sensitive questions for Rich. But Sanchez did take you, and whether he took you or whether it was that just the makeup of that team, Rex Ryan, all that, Hard Knocks, but they did take you to 2 AFC championship games. How were you feeling? Were you hopeful, or did you always think like Sanchez is not the guy? We're lucky to be here.
I was hopeful because the roster was so strong,
Yeah.
and I thought it could have. And it wasn't that long. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago where you could have a very good roster and the quarterback didn't have to be a superstar, and you could still win. We saw the Brad Johnson do that. We saw Trent Dilfer. So I had faith in the team as a whole, not so much faith in him though.
Yeah, did you lose faith completely at the butt fumble, or was it prior to that?
Oh,
Had to bring it up.
That was the icing on the cake. That was, let's just get this guy out of here. Come on. It was bad. The butt fumble, and as a Jets fan, I don't really have too many friends that are Jets fans. They're Steelers fans, they're Cowboys fans, Niners fans. So they just rag on me any chance they can get. Patriots fans, and the butt fumble did not help that situation. So yes,
infamous. Before we move on, Rich, are you a USC hater? Takedo Luna wants to know.
I am not a big college football fan, but I do hate USC quarterbacks because we have had such bad luck with USC quarterbacks. So after Sam
Darnold being the most recent,
I can't. I never want to see another USC quarterback in a Jets uniform ever again.
Well, I won't make you talk about it anymore right now.
Let's
move on to the next question.
I thought that lasted a little too long.
You were in your feelings. I didn't want to interrupt you. This can be a part-time therapy session for you, Rich. So just get it all out. Next question from Taco Frog 88. Did you think that OJ Howard was going to sign with the Bengals for certain? I will take this one first. I don't know about for certain. So what we do at Legit Football, we curate the news. We're simply following the main sources, the reputable sources. We did not report. We didn't put it in the newsletter that he was going to sign with the Bengals, but everything I was seeing was indicating that the Bengals wanted to sign him, that he was intended to sign. He ends up signing with the Texans instead. So I don't think I had enough time to process if I thought he was going to sign. I just kind of, right now there's such a deluge of news. It's just like a fire hose with cuts, with practice waiver practice squad signs, with waiver claims, with trades happening at the last second. There's just so much news, and to me, OJ Howard was just another note. He was a little bit of a surprise cut from Buffalo in the first place, but you usually see these kind of things. He was a first-round pick from Tampa Bay. He had so much physical talent, and just injuries were obviously an issue, but he was never able to fully realize that potential. I thought Buffalo would be a good landing spot because they already have Dawson Knox. You've got one of the best, if not the best, passing games in the NFL. They cut him. Looked like Cincinnati was going to sign him. He ends up on the Texans. So did I think he was going to sign with the Bengals? I didn't have a reason not to think so. But that's how these things go. I think I would have had more time to analyze if it was the heart of the offseason, but it was just another line item to me. Any thoughts on OJ Howard real quick?
Not really. He's a guy, for fantasy football purposes, you look at every year and you see the potential. And there are so many guys that we see like that year after year. They have all the ability in the world. But I heard he showed up overweight this year. I don't know how true that is or not. I don't know the guy. I don't know much about him. He doesn't seem like he's a guy that loves football. So to me, I didn't have any team that was. And when I heard he was signing with the Bills, I thought it was interesting just because they're the Bills. A player of that caliber, a guy with that skill set going to a team like that, it kind of raises your eyebrow a little bit, catches your attention. But when they cut him, I just thought, okay, whoever picks him up is going to pick him up. I don't think we're going to even hear about him anymore.
Yeah, I think we've seen the OJ Howard experience at this point, as lacking as it is, and he's just yet another in a long line of first round all potential. Like you just imagine that this guy's going to be a beast, and more of them don't work out than do. So that's one thing that we tend to forget, especially at this time of year, because we haven't seen any of the first round picks in action yet. It's all just hope and excitement.
Yeah.
Takeda Luna decided to get in one more stab at you. So I'm just going to, you don't have to answer it. You don't have to say, I mean, you're welcome to.
I am going to answer this because I brought a prop with me today, but go ahead. You can read the question if you'd like.
So Takeda Luna, who chose violence with regards to Pro Football Demon today, said Rich is going to be crying week 13 of the 17 weeks when the Jets go 4-13. He might cry every week if they go 4-13, even with the games they win. Yeah. Your thoughts?
I brought this today because I'm getting ready for the season. This is my headgear. Because watching the Jets for the past 20
Why don't you
years,
describe for the people not watching, for the podcast listeners?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is some Venom headgear. It's MMA headgear. And it's what they wear when they spar. Boxers wear that. And watching the Jets is like getting punched in the head. I go into every season, you go into the season with high hopes because the year prior was so bad, you don't think it can get any worse. And usually I went through the Vinny Testaverde ACL. That was our Super Bowl year when Vinny Testaverde pounded the turf against the Patriots. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but Tom Tupa, a punter, ended up quarterbacking for us after that. But there's been so much pain that I've gone through with the Jets. If we finished with a 4-win season, it would not absolutely shock me. I just want to see competitive football. That's it. If we have 4 wins, but we are in those games, I'll be happy. Give me something to go into next year with.
Well, that gives you a catch-22 because in order to play competitive football, you'll probably want Joe Flacco at quarterback. But if you have Joe Flacco at quarterback for too many games, I have a wager.
Yeah, we do have a wager. I have to get a Tom Brady jersey. If he starts 5 games, so he starts that 5th game. 5
Correct.
Games.
More than 4 games.
Right. More than 4 games I have to wear. I for a second I thought I might be on the losing end of this, but after seeing that horrible pick he threw in the preseason, I'm pretty confident that I'm not going to. I think they'll go to Mike White and see what they have.
So you may win the wager, but I think as a Jets fan,
unless Joe Flacco goes off in the Joe Flacco revenge game week 1 against the Ravens, which is always a possibility.
So I will let you take the next question since that wasn't really a question. It was just hopefully Takaido has gotten all of his venom out.
I doubt it.
Probably not. Next question. We'll give this to you first. Kyle DeGraw asks, who do you think could be a surprise team this year and make a run? I'm assuming a playoff run or maybe a Super Bowl run.
This is interesting because I actually jotted down a few questions just in case we needed them. And this was one of the questions I had. And I would say the Lions, but I think that's becoming more of a trendy pick now. I think people are expecting them to win around 7 games. The team I'm going to go with, and it surprised me, is the Carolina Panthers. Looking at this roster, this is assuming Christian McCaffrey stays healthy, which, is a possibility. Mm-hmm. They improve the offensive line. They have weapons on offense, and their defense is pretty good.
Yeah.
They are not in a killer division. We don't know what Tampa is going to be. We don't know if Tom Brady's finally going to fall off a cliff this year. If he does, the team could fall apart. So that division could be up for grabs. And when I look at the rosters in that division, with Baker Mayfield is could say what we want about him, but the guy is a competitor. He's not going to go out there and just throw his hands up. He's going to go out there and try to win.
He plays best with a chip on his shoulder, and he has a massive chip on his shoulder right now.
We heard what he said about week 1 against the Bears.
Yep.
The Browns, sorry.
Browns.
So, Baker, last season, I look at last season, and he did play with an injury. We talked about that. That was a maturity issue. I think he shouldn't have played. He's a better quarterback than he showed. This could be the thing that lights a fire under him. Quarterbacks can at times learn to make better decisions. And if Baker can get that under control, he can be a pretty decent quarterback. We've seen him be a decent quarterback. So, again, this isn't a killer of a division. My one big gripe with Baker is he thinks he's way more athletic than he is. He could get away with the things that he wants to get away with. He could have gotten away with that in high school and college maybe, but now you're dealing with pros. Him trying to tackle a safety after an interception, we don't need you doing that, Baker. Don't do that. These guys are stronger than you. They're bigger. They're faster. You're not going to outrun these defensive ends. So do what you do best. you can be an accurate quarterback. We've seen him be an accurate quarterback, deliver the football, stay in the pocket, deliver the football, make good decisions. And I think they can be a surprise team. They could sneak into the playoffs.
So I'm going to answer the question two ways. My playoff team, I think, is, I don't even know if sneak. I actually discussed this with John Chapman on our last episode on Tuesday. The Vikings. I think you're high on Minnesota. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you have them winning the North.
I do.
Correct. That could be, you have a thing with Aaron Rodgers, so maybe it's just an Aaron Rodgers hating thing. But I'm not going to go too much in because I feel like I've talked about the Vikings a lot. I'm going to say a team that I'm starting to really get maybe like crazy Super Bowl vibes, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. So they just traded for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who is one of the best slot corners in the NFL. Obviously, they had an amazing offseason, both in the draft and acquisition. It all comes down to, Sirianni as a coach and Jalen Hurts, because they've got offensive weapons with the addition of A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They've got a top 5 offensive line.
All of a sudden, Howie Roseman figured it out.
Well,
right?
see, Howie's always been good at team construction. The reason they won the Super Bowl back in, the 2017 season, 2018, is because he put together such a strong roster, and you could have a guy like Nick Foles just kind of get hot at the right time. This feels like that same kind of team. If Jalen Hurts can stay hot, if he can steer this very talented roster, another division which is very weak in the NFC East, definitely, I would say weaker than the South, in my opinion. So playoffs, I think, is pretty much a sure thing unless there's disaster. The way the Cowboys are going, I think a division win is very much a strong possibility. So now you're talking about at least one home playoff game, and it just feels like a team that can cruise. You've got your defensive line, the secondary, offensive line. It's just across the board. You can say they're running backs, but they're not really looking for a stud running back. They're more of a rotation. They don't have a lot of glaring weaknesses to me. And they play in a division where they can get some wins, they can get some momentum, and those are the kind of teams sometimes that we see surprise Super Bowl runs. Fantastic question. I will let you do the next one. We've got just under 2 minutes until halftime. Shout out to Jimmy Ray at NFL_stats on Twitter. You guys know him. Thanks, Jimmy, for popping in and asking a question. He says, "What's up, guys? Who do you think will have a better season, Justin Fields or Trey Lance?"
This is a tough question because I look at that Niners schedule, and if Trey Lance doesn't, there are 4 games that he should absolutely win in the first 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. He's got the Seahawks. I have it written down here. He's got the Seahawks, the Bears.
Bears week 1.
Yeah, Bears week 1, Seahawks, Panthers, and Falcons.
Yeah.
He should win those games. I think Jimmy would win those games. If he drops and looks bad in those games, what do you do after that? Do you go to Jimmy G to try to salvage the season? So for that reason, I'm going to go with Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields throws a phenomenal deep ball. I love his pairing with Darnell Mooney. They didn't do much to help him offensively this offseason. So if we see Justin Fields flounder, I don't think it'll be from a talent standpoint. I think it'll be because they're just not doing right by him. They didn't do much to correct their offensive line issues. So if we see Justin Fields flounder, I think it'll be because of that. But the only way Justin Fields comes out is if he gets hurt. Trey Lance, I think, especially with this Jimmy G signing, we see him look bad in those games. We see him look like Jordan Love a little bit. I think they can pull the plug on him and just cut their losses.
I'm going to carry this into the second half because I want to address this question too, and we have just over 10 seconds left.
I'm sorry.
Last 8 seconds. No, it's okay. This is how this goes. We've never done a live Q&A. I'm just going to keep talking randomly until we hear the halftime chime. Perfect timing. All right. Great first half. I love it. We already have a bunch of questions in the queue for the second half. As always, guys, make sure to check out Legit Football. If you're not already a subscriber, we're going to be bringing some awesome content to you throughout the entire season. It's going to be 5 days a week, all the time, 100% free. LegitFootball.com, your morning briefing. When you have this deluge of news that I was talking about earlier, that's what we're here for. We're here to break that down and tell you what you need to know so you don't have to follow Twitter and get all this random info. So check out legitfootball.com, guys. As we mentioned, this show of 30 Minutes of Football, we're going to be going 5 days a week. Most of those days, maybe eventually all of those days, will be with my man, Pro Football Demon. Rich, why don't you tell everybody where they can get your stuff?
Pro Football Demon on TikTok. Check me out on YouTube. I upload to YouTube. I upload long form stuff now also. So yeah, check out all my socials. I will be live tweeting during NFL games too. So who knows what'll
Same. Maybe we'll tweet at each other.
Yeah.
Couple quick things. We mentioned Jimmy Ray. NFL stats, I'm working on doing a live Twitter Spaces maybe during Monday Night Football. Rich, we may bring you in that as well. And speaking of Rich's Pro Football Demon YouTube, we're going to be doing an overtime on Fridays. We haven't really mapped this out yet, but the idea is we're still going to do our 30 minutes where we ask each other questions. You guys come with questions, and we will answer them on Rich's YouTube, on the Pro Football Demon YouTube after. So figure like 1:30-ish Eastern on Fridays. Lots of fun stuff coming up. Make sure to stay tuned. Legit Football and Pro Football Demon. All right. We're ready. This is live regular season action almost. This is the last preseason tune-up. That's what this is. Back when they had 4 games and the third one was the dress rehearsal. Rich, are you ready for the second half?
I'm always ready. Let's go.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and dive in. And we're going to bring up that question back from Jimmy Ray because I want to address it. Justin Fields or Trey Lance? I'm going to go contrarian to you here. I'm going to say Trey Lance. And it's because a lot of the reasons you started to list. Lance has a fantastic roster around him. He has a offense that is going to be primarily run first with one of, if not the best play callers in the NFL with Kyle Shanahan, and just so many weapons around him. The reports coming out of his chemistry with Brandon Ayuk, on top of the fact that Deebo Samuel was a top 3 wide receiver last year, they're already lining him back up in the backfield. There's just so much to like, and they've got, as you said, a very easy schedule, especially to start the year, so I think that'll help with Lance's confidence. I'm not saying Lance is going to have an MVP caliber season, but if you compare that, not even talent-wise, to what Fields has to deal with in Chicago, and the fact that Bears defense is, in my opinion, just from a talent perspective, perhaps bottom 5. The offensive line might be bottom 2. You don't have a lot of weapons outside of Darnell Mooney, who I'm definitely high on. He's going to get a lot of volume just because they're going to be playing from behind, and there's not a lot of other people to catch the ball outside of maybe Cole Kmet. There's just so much stacked against Justin Fields. So this is not a question of who do I think is more talented. I do think Fields is a better overall prospect. I liked him as a prospect over Lance coming out of college, but I just think that the situations are so drastically different. Fields has an entirely new coaching staff in Chicago. There's just so many. How bad is the offensive line? They just claimed Alex Leatherwood, who was let go after being a first-round pick last year with the Raiders. How often do first-round picks get let go a year later? Not because of some off-the-field issue, but because he was just not good. So that, to me, there's just so many question marks with Chicago. So while I agree with you, Fields is better, I just think Lance is so much better set up to succeed.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go over. We're kind of talking about this year 2 quarterback. So we'll kind of pivot off this. Kyle DeGraw asked, which year 2 quarterback will take the biggest step this year? Rich, do you have one in mind?
Yeah, and this one I think is easy. I think it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. I think they are out of that Urban Meyer disaster, and they have a capable coach in there now. His roster is not bad. Doug Peterson pairing him with Trevor Lawrence, I think, was a phenomenal move. Bringing in, we've talked about Christian Kirk before. He was overpaid, but he's not a bad receiver. I really like the Evan Ingram signing. You actually pointed that out to me when we were talking about fantasy football one day. That was a guy to keep an eye on. And the more I've looked into that, I'm pretty excited about Evan Ingram. I actually picked him up in that fantasy league, thanks to you. So
you're welcome. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you guys win your fantasy leagues, and that includes our guest host.
So he's going to get a little more help on the defense this year, on the defensive side of the ball. And Trevor's a guy that's just won everywhere he's gone. We can look at his numbers last year, but that was a horrible, horrible situation he was in. We can't really hold him accountable for that. We'll see what he does this year, but I think he's the one that is primed to make the biggest jump, especially with his skill set.
I'm going to quickly answer the question. We actually have a lot of questions. I was just looking in the queue, so we're going to try to speed these up to get to as many as we can. 100% agree that it's Trevor Lawrence. I think Mac Jones, who was the surprise top rookie quarterback last year, once again, situation around him is looking bad. But if there's a surprise name to keep an eye on, Davis Mills. Kind of feeling the Davis Mills hype. Yeah. Next question from Tyler Wayner. Good morning. As a Lions fan, I'm looking forward to seeing Swift and Williams on the field. Do you think they could be an explosive running back duo? I'll start with this one. Could they be? Sure. We've seen Williams pair with Aaron Jones in Green Bay, so we've seen what he's able to do as a number 2. Swift wants to be the 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving running back. He certainly has the talent, and they have a very good offensive line. I actually think the Lions' offensive line doesn't get a lot of attention, because it's the Lions in general, but I think they can absolutely set up if they are a run-first team, which I think they should be. I think Goff works best as a play-action quarterback. Then I think they could be an explosive running back duo. I like the combination. I like the way it's set up. It might be one of those scenarios where Detroit's playing behind a lot. I'm big on the Lions in general, but the biggest question marks are definitely on the defensive side of the field. Any quick questions on the Swift-Williams pairing in the Detroit backfield?
I think you hit the nail on the head with everything. The one thing I will say is when I think explosive, I do think of DeAndre Swift. I don't think of Jamal Williams so much.
Yeah, agreed. I think Williams is a little bit more of a bruiser, kind of between the tackles, great goal line back. So I like the kind of the whole thunder and lightning thing.
Yeah.
Sticking to running back duos, and you're going to get this one first. Kyle DeGraw asks, what do you think of the Jets running back duo this year, Michael Carter and rookie Breece Hall?
I think it's phenomenal. I think Breece Hall, it might be just my Jets bias, but Breece Hall reminds me of Jonathan Taylor. Pairing him with Michael Carter.
Big comparison.
Comparing, and Michael Carter, we saw what he did in North Carolina with Javonte Williams. Pairing him with a back like Breece Hall, I think is fantastic. So I love that. I love that pair. They can both catch the ball too.
Yeah, and you've got a Mike LaFleur offense, which comes from that Shanahan offense, and it really predicates around having multiple backs to be able to just run those zone schemes. So Michael Carter showed some flashes toward the end of last season, and Breece Hall is an incredible talent. I think they could end up being one of those top running back duos. From a fantasy perspective, it's one of the reasons I do have Breece Hall in a best ball league, but I have not been so quick to jump on him because Carter showed that he can be a really talented running back. I'm worried about kind of the split between the two. Let's get to the next question. Taco Frog 88 asks, should the Bengals worry about the tight end room, or can Hayden Hurst be the guy? Well, here's the good thing about Cincinnati. No tight end needs to be the guy. They are so stacked at playmaker. Tyler Boyd, if you guys remember a few seasons ago, after A.J. Green left, Tyler Boyd was the wide receiver 1 in Cincinnati. He's now the wide receiver 3. When you have a guy that's talented, who he can just, he excels as a slot wide receiver, and you don't have to rely on him to be the guy because you have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and, one of the best quarterbacks already in the NFL and going into year 3 in Joe Burrow. You don't need a tight end. The biggest question mark I have is not the tight end position, is that offensive line. That was far and away their biggest weakness. That's probably what cost them a Super Bowl last year. They addressed it in multiple ways, but we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it. So much about offensive line play is chemistry based. So I don't worry about that. I think Hayden Hurst definitely has the talent. He is a very physically talented tight end. I don't think he's a drop off from what they had last year with CJ Uzomah, who's now in New York. But that's not my question. My question is, how is this offensive line going to play? Quick thoughts on Hayden Hurst.
You hit on everything I was going to say. And the last thing I was going to say was it's not much of a drop-off from what they had last year. Hayden Hurst is no slouch. So Takeda just wanted to put a comment here. The Colts are going to be a surprise team. I did want to comment on this real quick. I don't think they're a surprise. I think most media, including myself, is actually picking Indianapolis to win the AFC South, because Tennessee is going in the opposite direction. They just lost Harold Landry for the season, who was one of, if not their best, probably their best edge rusher. So, and the fact that even if the Texans and Jaguars are up and coming, they're still not nearly as talented as the Colts. So I think it's not a surprise. So I think they're going to be a team that probably easily makes the playoffs. They upgraded at running back. Lots of good things I'm hearing about Stephon Gilmore. They have Yannick Ngakoue. You kind of forget that, because he doesn't need to be. You got Kwity Paye going into his second season, DeForest Buckner. This team has talent across the board, and it looks like Darius, a.k.a. Shaquille Leonard, will not be going on the PUP list, so he should be ready to start early in the season. That's one of my favorite fantasy defenses, by the way, because of that division.
So I mentioned Harold Landry, but I do want you to kind of expand on this, because Taco Frog 88 asked, with Harold Landry tearing his ACL, how much does that impact the Titans defense?
Well, I don't know how much it impacts. To me, Mike Vrabel is just a great defensive coach. I think he can make do with what he has, similar to the way Bill Belichick can. I think we've seen the caliber.
Never had a losing record for
right. Yeah. So I don't think that's going to impact them in a significant way.
All right, so let's go on to Kyle DeGraw asked, did any of the cut down day cuts surprise you? I'll say one. Trey Sermon surprised me a little bit. And I think the fact that he was quickly picked up by the Eagles kind of shows you, because I'm kind of believing in Howie. So if he's picking up talent, there's a reason for it. Just because Shanahan is not one of those to kind of give false praise, and he had really started to praise Sermon. Sermon looked much better in the preseason. He was getting a lot of the early snaps, which usually is indicative of who they like in the kind of the pecking order of the depth chart. But they really liked their rookie Mason, and I think that was played into part of it. But I was still surprised. I would say, off the top of my head, the biggest surprise was Trey Sermon. Do you have one in mind, Rich?
I'll say Kellen Mond. Trey Sermon was the guy I was going to say, but Kellen Mond in Minnesota, because I just thought he would be a guy who they would hold on to as a backup, and I think because of who they had as a coach last year, he didn't get much of an opportunity. I thought it would change this year, but it didn't.
Yeah, there was a narrative last year that, he could be the Kirk Cousins replacement. He was a third-round quarterback.
Chris Sims was high on him. Phil Sims was high on him. Yeah.
So, and sometimes you'll see these kind of, let's say, project quarterbacks not play out, but it's rare that it's in 1 year. And there's an entirely new coaching staff, and I think that is part of it. With Kevin O'Connell, the new head coach in Minnesota, they just had a new GM. They wanted to kind of have their own guys, but it's still, I'm with you there. I was also surprised to see that drop. Let's go. Taco Frog 88 has another question. Why is it that when one of the first-round quarterbacks does bad, it's a, quote, growing experience, but when Mills, so we're talking about Davis Mills, does badly, he's called a stopgap quarterback for next year's draft? So I mentioned earlier that Davis Mills was kind of a sneaky guy to pay attention to. Do you want to take this one first? Do you have your thoughts on Davis Mills? I kind of mentioned him earlier.
Yeah, this is a very good question. It's a loaded question. I think we look at situations with quarterbacks, and there are so many things you can point to and say, well, he struggled because of X, Y, and Z, like we did before with Trevor Lawrence. So we can look at Urban Meyer and say, well, his struggles were because of Urban Meyer. Trevor Lawrence struggles this year with Doug Peterson. That completely eliminates that narrative, and that could absolutely happen. Davis Mills, I don't think anybody expected anything from him. So that's why we're all a little surprised at how well he did, and we're saying, oh, maybe there could be something here with Davis Mills. So that could be part of it.
Yeah, I think it's all about expectation. There's just a different level of expectation, and Davis Mills didn't have any expectations.
None at all. Yeah.
And people kind of stick to their predetermined narrative. So to most, and especially casual football fans, a first-round quarterback is a first-round quarterback for a reason. So if they haven't reached that potential yet, it just hasn't happened, or you need to give him more time. Whereas Davis Mills was never supposed to be that guy, so it's like it's almost like they're expecting him to be bad, and if he's good, they're just waiting for it to happen. So the first sign of him not playing well, it's like confirmation bias. It's like, I knew it. He was a third-round quarterback for a reason. That's why. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But like I said, I'm really starting to dig this Texans team, not as a playoff team, but as a team, and the Jags. Like and I'm not high on the Titans. I'm just really, really excited, and we're so close to see how this plays out. It would be so crazy. And one of the questions I wrote down is, with regards to the Harold Landry, how far did the Titans fall? And just, wow, from top of the AFC last year, where are they going to end up? We don't have to go into that because we do have a few more questions to get to. Taco Frog 88 asks, do you think the Eagles front office are silently losing faith in Miles Sanders and liking Kenneth Gainwell more? I'll take this one first. We got about 2.5 minutes left. I don't know about losing faith. He has been injured. That's the biggest thing. I don't think we've been able to see Sanders because since and he didn't have a huge workload at Penn State. He was not kind of like the high volume guy that Saquon was before him. And I think we've kind of seen that. So I think Sirianni and the rest of the Eagles offense wants to use multiple running backs. Boston Scott, they like Scott. Scott's had some big games. So I don't know if it's necessarily that it's losing faith. I think Sanders has the talent, but I just think they don't want to use one guy. I don't think they want a bell cow running back. I think they want to use all three. I think you're going to see, from a fantasy perspective, you're going to see Sanders, you're going to see Kenneth Gainwell, and you're going to see Boston Scott. And it's going to depend on the hot hand, and it's going to depend on who's healthy. What are your thoughts, Rich?
I don't know how much faith they had in him to lose, considering who they have. And like we've said before, the best ability is availability. So, I think they just look at, if he's there, we'll play him. If he's not, we have guys that can play.
Yeah. So we're going to bring another question from Takaido Luna. Is it bad that I drafted 3 defense on my fantasy football team and 2 kickers?
Are you flexing out defense and kickers?
Yeah.
Or?
Is it a premium defense scoring league? Do kickers get huge bonuses based on longer kicks? I'm going to assume. I'd like to think that our audience is, this is just a trolling question, but I liked the question, so I wanted to pop it up. Any defensive quick strategies when it comes to drafts you want to throw in here?
Last 2 picks in your draft.
Take them as last, yes, 100%. Defense and kicker. There is zero reason to draft any earlier than that.
Yeah.
So with just under a minute left, there is an awesome question that we're going to end with, and that is Super Bowl predictions. This is a great time to tease. Next Tuesday's show with Rich is going to be our season prediction show. Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Stick around for that. Quickly, who are your Super Bowl predictions?
Bills and the Rams. Right now, I just think that they're the 2 teams that are the most loaded in each conference.
So okay, we got 20 seconds. I'll give my prediction. Who's winning?
The Bills. I would give it to.
Are
the
we
Bills.
really going to do the exact same thing? Yes. So I'm going to dig in a little deeper. So this might not be my answer on Tuesday, but what I did earlier in the offseason is I did predict Bills versus Rams. And hey, guess what? That's who's playing next Thursday. And I might pick a different winner for the first game than I would for the Super Bowl. But as of now, I'm picking Buffalo Bills over the Rams in the Super Bowl coming up. That gong means we made it. Thank you guys so much for coming in and asking questions. As I said, we're going to do a version of this on Fridays after our main 30 minutes of football where Rich and I go over to the Pro Football Demon YouTube and just have like an overtime. It will be less structured. Maybe it's 5 minutes. Maybe it's 20 minutes. We'll see what kind of questions we get. But thank you guys so much for asking your questions in the chat today. Rich, different kind of format?
I love this. I love this. I love talking to people. I love answering their questions. When we move over to Pro Football Demon, I am not nearly as structured as Brian is, just so you know. So
it's gonna be
a bit of a free for all. But I'm looking forward to you guys asking us start-sit questions, that sort of thing, fantasy football. I mean, whatever questions you have, bring them. We'll answer them to the best of our ability. Brian is incredibly knowledgeable. Like I said, he gave me an Evan Ingram tip before, and I went out and grabbed them because I did a little research on that. And said, wow,
I'm expecting a cut of any winnings that you make in your fantasy.
I do have one gripe with you that I wanted to bring up, though.
Awesome, let's do it. I love gripes.
We are in a fantasy football league together.
Right.
What is up with your logo?
Is that the one of my face?
It's your face. The logo is your face.
I put it there as a placeholder. I don't know that I'm going to keep it there, but now that it bothers you, I might just keep it there. You have a nice guy face, so it's not striking fear into anybody's heart, though. I mean, you got to really. Did you see my logo? It's the Pro Football Demon logo on a helmet. Your whole name is Demon. Just like I can't compete with that. I'd rather go the opposite direction and like be the Angels versus Demons guy and just be like this wholesome, nice guy that nobody's expecting, and then I'll come and thrash you on Sundays. Love it. So, guys, as always, make sure to check out Pro Football Demon, mainly on TikTok, but he's on YouTube, he's on Instagram, he's on Twitter as well. And if you haven't already, I don't know why you wouldn't have. Sign up for Legit Football. LegitFootball.com. Enter your email address. 100% free. We've got some really exciting things in the work. We have a partnership with Pro Football Reference now, so you're going to see a stat head question of the day in every single edition. If you're already a subscriber, you started seeing that yesterday. We've got some exciting partnership stuff in the works. It's a little bit longer than 30 minutes, but it was worth it today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all your questions. Last question I'm going to put up here, right? Jade Dragon 91. Start Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. Just the answer. I'm going Samuel. I love it. We're contrarian as usual. This has been 30 minutes of football with Legit Football. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner.